All right. Welcome to the this edition of Genealogy FAQ. I'm Genealogist General Bob Fish, and this is the part where we'll answer the questions that you frequently ask, answer the questions that other people have been asking that you maybe should have been asking, or answer the questions that may be on your mind and you just haven't bothered to ask them. I'll begin with the show, share my screen, and we'll go with the slideshow. There we go. This is Genealogy FAQ number 3, successfully generating new members. The note that I have on the screen, the National 250th Anniversary emblem. This is a special meeting in that we're going to be talking about how to reach the membership objectives that the SAR has for the year 2026. It's a lofty goal. We believe that if we work on this goal, we can get there, but you're going to have to be the ones to help us out. And we're going to talk about how to do that tonight. Because we're working on the 250th goal, Clifford Olson, the chairman of the 250th committee, has authorized us to have this meeting as a 250th celebration meeting, and you can use your participation in this to count for your points if you're working on a 250th. It's number 3 in the series of talks. I thank you for coming on board with us. The people who I've invited to the meeting are some of the most knowledgeable people we have about genealogy. That includes, but not limited to, the genealogy staff, the genealogy committee, registrars, both state and chapter, and also our Liberty Award recipients. To you, to the Liberty Award medals recipients, we're most thankful. You, 208 of you, have accomplished 65% of the new members that came on last year. And our objective, of course, is to look at how to increase that and talk about it tonight. And so that's our main subject. Logistics, these are the ones we've talked about at every meeting. The meeting is being recorded. Everybody's on mute. The number of attendees right now is 70. That's just great. Because of the number of people we have on the call, you'll not be able to ask questions while the call's in progress, but you can have your questions answered by emailing them to me, bob@bfish.org. You will get a reply. If you want to direct it to one of the meeting presenters tonight, you can send it to me and indicate who you'd like it to go to. And if they can't answer it, I'll help them out. We'll do that. Also, if you've got an idea that you'd like to see covered in a future meeting, please tell me that also. SAR wants to grow. In 2021, we ended the year with 38,078 members. As you may know from national meetings, or have heard or read or been on the membership committee, their goal for 2026 is 60,000 members. That's a lofty goal, but I believe it's attainable, especially if we can get retention working a little better, but also get the new member generation going. That's what we want to do. So I'll introduce the Florence Kendall Medal. This award was authorized in 1939, and it's awarded annually to the three compatriots who were the first line signers of the largest number of new members during the previous year. The award was named for Florence Helen Messamore Kendall, who was lived between 1850 and 1939. She was the mother of President General Messamore Kendall, who served as PG, I never knew this, in 1936, 37, 38, and 39. That's quite a term. In 1917, at the age of 66, Mrs. Kendall purchased 2 ambulances and traveled with them to France, giving one of them to the Red Cross and driving the other one herself for the duration of World War I, sorry. This is a very prestigious award, and is given out, like I said, annually, because it's given out just 3 a year, and because people who've won it before can win it again. It is one of the most prestigious awards we have. And so in looking at it, this makes it, doubly special, and those who have it certainly deserve our recognition and thanks. The speakers tonight that we're going to have are our 3 Florence Kendall Honorees from 2021. In 2020, these people achieved the remarkable number of 198 new members between them. Tim Ward from Ohio, 77, John Schatzel from Kansas, 70, and Emery Neal from Colorado, 51. I certainly ought to point out that those are not the largest states in our society. And it certainly shows that people working can earn this medal, even reaching across state borders, looking throughout their state and getting well organized. So let's see, I'll go off share now so you can see the people, and let's, oh gosh. There you go. So we'll see the people, and there's Tim Ward, and I'll invite Tim to take over and present your thoughts on how to improve membership acquisition. Tim.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for inviting me to speak. Because membership's one of the, I've basically scaled down from a lot of the other things I was doing with SAR and focused on recruiting and new members and completing applications to get members in, because without members, obviously, will cease to exist. And the more members we get, the better chance you have on getting an active member that might become a chapter president, a state, or a national officer. So the more recruiting and more members we get, the better for our organization. When I started out working on membership, I did my own recruiting. I did my friends, relatives, my coworkers, neighbors. I went to my kids' sporting events, the 4-H meetings, Boy Scouts. I talked to people about the SAR. And if they showed any interest at all, I offered to see if I could find them an ancestor if they didn't know they had one. If they thought they had one, I asked them to give me what they had to get me started. I also was a member of Kiwanis, and I will tell you, your other service organizations or organizations like ours are always looking for speakers. Rotary, Kiwanis, Masons, Ruritan, your local church groups, they're always looking for speakers for their events. So I volunteered to give a talk at several of the organizations and was able to recruit new members that way as well. Me personally, my feeling is you got to be willing to do the research for the person. You can't just give them an application and say, come back and see me when you got everything we need. Most of them have no idea what is needed, where to find it, or whether they even have a Patriot ancestor. A lot of them, I've started from scratch with just their parents and grandparents' names and been able to find ancestors for people. So if you're willing to do the work, you're obviously going to increase the number of members that you can obtain. A lot of our chapters, and I'd assume it's the same across the country, our own chapters don't have a genealogist. So I volunteered to be the genealogist for multiple chapters besides my own. And if they have a new member showing interest, they just give them my email address. And when they contact me, I have a cut and paste response that I give them along with SAR worksheet to get me started. Now I've become the intake person for the membership inquiries on the national website that come to the Ohio Society. Every state has someone receiving those emails from national. And instead of just forwarding them to the chapters and not knowing if they're ever even going to contact the person, I respond to every single one of them myself and offer to help them join. And when I am able to be successful and find the ancestor or prove the ancestor for them, I put them in the local chapter where they live. I don't just put them in my own chapter since I'm responding on behalf of the state. I've been helping out every single chapter in our state. Obviously, you probably need to talk to some people at a state meeting though, if you're going to do that, because different chapters have different chapter fees. I was lucky that in Ohio, all but one said, just get them in, we'll deal with that later. And the other one gave me their fees and I know what it is. So if they live in that area, that's what I charge for the check for the chapter. Another thing that I always say is you got to be persistent when you're doing the research. Some of them are pretty easy, and that's a plus when you get an easy one, but I've had quite a few difficult ones. And you just gotta keep at it and hope you can find something. The first thing I do is I check the DAR and the SAR Patriot indexes, see if it's red flagged. I don't want to waste my time unless I think I might be able to find something or the applicant has a good lead that where we might be able to fix it. And if that's the case, I'll try to find them a different ancestor. I start running from what I can prove out on their other branches to see if we can find them another one. The systems that I use most frequently when I'm working on an application are obviously Ancestry.com, FamilySearch.org, Newspapers.com has become a big one for me over the past couple of years. It's been very helpful. I use Fold3 mostly just for the Pennsylvania archives that are on there. They're easier to obtain that way. But I have gotten lucky and found actually one that was red flagged. I just was playing around with the name and found proof of service to fix it on Fold3. I've used Heritage Quest a little bit. If you haven't heard of that, they have books that you can punch a name that you're searching for in there and see if you get any hits that name's in any books that'll pop up for you. I also use archive.org, which has a lot of history books on it. And that's been a very helpful website. And then, like I said, be persistent. I just start using Yahoo or Google and just start running searches on the names, the locations, and I use worldcat.org if I find a lead for a book to find out what library might have that book that I can go get it and see if it has what I need in it. I frequently Google the local libraries where the people are that I'm researching to see what they have online. They have databases online sometimes. Additionally, like if I need a newspaper article, or like I said, if they have the book I'm looking for, I'll email them to see if someone can send me the newspaper article, or someone can check the book, or if I can get the book through an interlibrary loan. And you'd be surprised, quite a few of the libraries will actually send you, if it's not a big request, if it's like just an obituary or something, the paper, they'll copy it and send it to you over email. Another very, very useful tool is obviously the DAR applications, because any of them that are proven after January 1st of 1985 are acceptable as documentation for an SAR application. So if you befriend a DAR chapter registrar, they have look-only access to all their applications on their Patriot Index. So they can look at the application and tell you what documentation was listed on it to prove the link that you're having trouble with, or they can tell you if it has the check marks that you need, if it's one that's before 1/1/85, and then you'll know whether you can try to find the same documentation or whether it's worthwhile to actually order the record copy. Another suggestion I would have for everyone is to try to see if you can get on the National Genealogy Committee, because obviously that'll help you keep up with our updated policies and procedures. And you'll also meet a bunch of people that are interested in genealogy and working on applications as well. So you'll make some contacts. People might give you some ideas when you're having a hard time, or they might live somewhere where they can help you out and get something like the books I'm telling you about that are at a library not near you. They might be willing to go look for you. So I tried to be brief because I know we got two other guys that are going to speak. I hope I didn't take up everything they had to say as well, but that's what I had to share.
Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate that. As I did say, we didn't ask our speakers to coordinate their talk, so maybe we'll get some overlap, but I hope we'll also find some differences that they have in their approach. John Schatzel of Kansas is our next speaker. John.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Do you have those slides I sent?
I do. You want the
Excellent.
slides up or you, let's see, or your picture?
The one that has a picture of Florence Kendall would be great.
Be up in a second.
All right, good. I'll start talking then. I want to echo off of two things that Tim mentioned. Within Kansas, I really, in addition to being the state genealogist, I'm essentially the genealogist for 4 of the chapters. The other chapters are pretty solid in what they're doing. And so, but essentially I do most of the work or all of the work for bits and pieces of 4 of those. Persistence is the key, I think. I've processed just over 300 applications, but I have files for 200 more prospective members completely done and waiting on the applicants for a little or a lot along the way. To echo 2 things off of references, one is Google Books. I use that quite often. So as with some of the other books, you can just go to Google Books and you can put in the name of the husband and the wife. You can put in the name of the husband and a location. You can put in a father and a son and just play with those combinations until you get some hits, and it's amazing what you can find. I've used that quite often, as I have WorldCat. The interesting thing, as Tim mentioned, with the libraries is they are just incredibly helpful. I helped a man from Louisiana prove his Cajun connections to a patriot from the Galvez expedition. And the book that I needed most and was most gracious for the help provided came from a small library in Alaska. So you never know where those books are going to be. In the past 5 years, the Kansas Society has grown from about 650 members to about 1,000 members. And so that's an increase of about 50%, or about what we're talking about nationally, to move from 38,000 to 60,000. To me, this requires 3 actions. One, we got to open the front door, right? We got to recruit new members. Now, when I say recruit new members, really what we would prefer to do is to recruit some families. And so last year I recruited 70 members, but only from 43 families. So there were a lot of brothers and sons that were amongst those that joined. And there were also 8 memorials that I processed last year. So step number 1 is to open the front door. And I think that we've got a lot of capability to do that. Was already mentioned tonight, somebody's got to close the back door. We got a lot of people leaving this outfit as well. Now, Kansas had 19 deaths last year, but we had, more than 100 people that did not, re-up. And so we've got to do something to keep the members that we have. And so that relies, I think, on some good programs, some low fees, some satisfaction, and some recognition. And so, again, we as members of chapters and states can do that within our own organizations. And then I think we got to turn on the lights. And so somehow we got to promote our organization. Just try to keep track of how many times you've gone to somebody and they said, I'd never heard of the SAR, right? I've lost track. That number rivals the number of people who told me their mother was in the DAR, and neither one of those are accurate. Okay, but we need to promote our organizations and our programs to the public and to our partners in patriotism. And Tim mentioned this, whether it's the Kiwanis, the VFW, the American Legion, whatever that club is, the people who joined a club at least have a propensity to join a club. And so many prospective members or potential members have no ambition to do so. So today I'd like to discuss how the DAR can help us increase our membership. Since 2008, the DAR has referred to the Kansas Society alone 480 members, 480 new members. 189 daughters have made those referrals, so whatever that is, 2.5 per on average. And 8 ladies have been recognized for referring to us successfully at least 10 new members apiece. And many have done that within their own families. We had a grandmother in Western Kansas who just recognized and paid for, I think it was 34 family members split almost equally between DAR and SAR about last year. So, there's plenty of people out there. Our relationship, I think, with the DAR has 4 aspects. The DAR's help to us through referrals and research, our work with them on joint activities, and our ability to help them. And so on referrals, I think there are several differences between the DAR and SAR that I would really highlight to any lady that's going to help us refer people. One is that we do not have a minimum age, because they do, and they will assume that we do. Also, that there are cost savings for junior members, because they don't have junior members, then they're not going to be as familiar with that. That we have a family plan, that we have memorial membership, and that we can work with them if the people they refer come from different states. So again, several things that I think are worth informing those ladies that are helping us. And so if you look at the top left on the referral again, we're looking for families, we're looking for friends of all ages. Every year at the DAR state conference, we give a certificate to every DAR chapter who has referred at least 1 new member to us. And we present all of the referral medals that we have available to us, with the Medal of Appreciation, Martha Washington, and Daughters of Liberty. But on the top right, the DAR can really help us with research too. They have the records, and they have some phenomenal genealogists. I really followed primarily in the footsteps of a DAR chapter and later state genealogist who just taught me the ropes and still helps me to this day. Again, their records are great. We know that it's beneficial to befriend one of them so that we can get the view all, but I think it would be incredibly beneficial if we got that at the national headquarters, such that if we're running into something, not everybody knows somebody in the DAR. Not everybody in every chapter in every state has one of those points of contact. So although it would be great to do it at the grassroots, it would also be great if somebody on our staff had the ability to do that, because when you're looking at 2 different record copies and 3 generations are hidden from view, and one is of the mother, the grandmother of the person that you're looking for, and one's the great aunt, you'd rather get one than the other, but you'd rather not, buy both if you don't have to. So again, I think the national organization can really help us on that. We also partner with the DAR, bottom left, and so we do many things with them. Meetings and events, we go to their meetings, they come to our meetings. We do Reads Across America together. We're partners on the 250th. Last month, we did a Patriot muster for the state of Kansas, had several members of the DAR there, and several of them brought husbands, friends, family, and now they are prospective members of our organizations. The DAR typically has 2 or 3 requests from us. So they love to see our color guard. They love have us pitch their programs. And quite often, more often now, they are asking if their father can if they can submit a memorial membership for their father. And so, it would be nice if we could do that, and if it were much easier to do that. But right now, you can only do that if, in fact, that daughter has a son, such that the son can get in, and then his grandfather can get in, or the DAR member has a brother, such that his father can get in, and that's just a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So that's all I've got on the first slide, and in keeping with the Genealogist General, I think I'll just go to the second slide then. Okay. A prospective member must be both willing and able to join. And sometimes you'll find people that are one, or the other, but not both. And that's challenging. It is most disappointing when you have somebody that's incredibly eager to join, for whom you can find absolutely, no Patriot connection. And, I can't tell you the 300 people whose applications I've submitted, but I can almost tell you the 15 people who really wanted to join, who I've been unable to help. Now, the willingness relates to the cost, and the benefit is perceived by the potential member, and the ability is based on documenting the Patriot service and the applicants connected. And here again, I would agree fully with Tim. I think I started out in my first couple of meetings, the chapter genealogist had a prospective member, and he just said, here's the application, bring it back when it's done. And that person did not join for a couple of years until I engaged him again. I think that you can ask a prospective member about himself and about his parents, and maybe with about 50% success about his grandparents. And if you're looking for anything more from a prospective member, you're probably asking for too much. When I get a name, I typically have built a tree for that individual before I ever contact them. Recently, I was working with a guy who submitted a request through National. So I had his name and a telephone number. There's 4 area codes in Kansas, so I knew generally where he was from. His name was Bob Ford. You do a newspaper search on Bob and Ford, and you will get a bazillion hits. But after a little bit of time, I built for him a tree before I ever talked to him. And so you can do that. When Bob Dole passed away, I was curious as to Bob Dole's ancestry, and I built his tree. So you can do it. So the research that I do on an application takes about 25 hours if I was starting from scratch. I build a family tree as fast as I can back to 1700 or back until I get to the coast. You can do, if you're going back 10 generations, that's 1,000 names. That'll take you about 6 hours because you'll hit the coast, or you'll start winding up with cousins marrying each other, back there someplace. Then you check all the people who were alive during the Revolutionary War in the PRS and in the DAR records, as Tim mentioned, and you'll probably get about 50 hits in a couple of hours. And then you start looking for the real lines that are acceptable, and you'll whittle it down even more. And then what you have to do is you have to actually document it, and that could take a long time. So that's kind of the process that I do. In my review right now for the National Office on pending applications, I've looked at 20 applications so far this year. Generally, over a couple of years now, about 40% of the documents, appended documents, can be approved for the Patriot that was initially submitted. About 40% can be proven, but for a different Patriot, and about 20% of them, I can find no documentation at all. Now, I would say when you have a application that looks difficult to do, I would look, and I get a lot of these from the DAR, and they want their husband to be in. Well, if it's a difficult application, what I would do is I would ask that lady if she would consider putting her son in first. Because if I put her son in first with a recommendation to go through the father's line, and the father's line just winds up being impossible, then that son can at least join as a member through his mother's record copy, and the money is not lost or held up for an eternity. So I would do that. There's some challenges. Many prospective members have this surname fixation, right? I don't think there's a single Schatzel in any Revolutionary War Patriot records, and if so, they might not be on the American side. But some people are just bound and determined to do that. I think if they're bound and determined to do that, that's a great item for a supplemental. Patriot identification, obviously, we see this on pendant applications all the time. One person becomes two people become one. One person has two wives. No, it's two different people with two different wives. And sorting through that can be very, very difficult, because in any community, there are probably a couple of people with the same name, born and living at about the same time, and that's perpetually a challenge. So when I put in one of my supplementals, I put in for a man by the name of Nathan Smith from Massachusetts, and it sailed through. And then I put in a supplemental for Jeronimus Rapelier, a Dutchman from Ulster County, and they asked me how I knew there wasn't two of them. So, to me, that's kind of curious. Nathan Smith, there were more than two of, and Jeronimus Rapelier, actually, there were not, but you get those questions. Obviously, there's a couple of big gaps proving things before the 1850 census or after what will soon be the 1950 census can be challenging. And right now, so much information is sensitive and personal information that finding things, recent items, is difficult. And of course, newspapers are becoming much less and less. So I think that is my recommendation on using the DAR as fully as possible, and in some things that maybe can keep us from having so many pending applications. I know it's frustrating when I talk to the chapter genealogist to say, build a complete tree first, build a complete tree. Even if somebody says my grandmother was in the DAR, okay, because they probably were in 1935, and you're going to wind up with an old record that's probably flagged, and it's going to require an incredible amount of work, and you might have a very easy line someplace else. So put the work in up front, and it will normally pay off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is, let's see, there you go. Our next speaker is Emery Neal. Emery, are you on?
Well, good evening, everyone. And Bob, thank you for inviting. Those two are hard acts to follow, I'm going to tell you. But I do know that we all experience some of the same problems. And I found by using that online application, even though there are some issues with it, it's a little bit faster than trying to share a PDF. The other issue I have is, like they said, people don't know what they're looking for. Or you go the other direction and they send you everything but the kitchen sink. And what I found is, by the time you sort that, sometimes you're just too tired to even work on their applications until the next day. But typically I can pick up a draft of their lineage and put it together in about, I don't know, a weekend. Then it's just a matter of having their assistants to help me fill in the blanks. And then convincing them that this is the way their application should go. Because I'm working on one right now that we're discussing whether his great-grandfather was living in one place or another, because his draft card says one thing and his marriage license to that same woman, to that same wife, says another, but his draft card doesn't show the lineage to the generation before. His marriage license does. So what am I going to use? The marriage license, of course. All my notes got flushed, but anyway. I don't have a lot that the other two gentlemen didn't talk about. So I'm not going to drag this out anymore. But thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you. Let's see. I know I've got some more stuff in here. Here we are. So wrapping up. Tim, John, Emery, thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation, and we honor and appreciate the great contribution that you've made in the last year. And as you probably know, at least two of the speakers were prior winners of the Florence Kendall Award before winning it last year. It's a real treat to hear from you. If you have questions about tonight, send them to me, bob@bfish.org, and I will assure you you'll get an answer. If you don't, get back to me and you will get one then. Just to add a couple of my own thoughts that were brought up, and I want to emphasize them to you. Using the 250th with its publicity and all, we know will get more interest in the SAR and bring members to us. It worked at the bicentennial, and it should work now. Doing the research for your potential applicant is really one of the keys that I think went through all of our talks, and I got to emphasize that for you. Probably the best words that I've ever used in getting a prospective applicant to join are these: I'll fill out your application for you. And if you can do that and generate the research behind it, you're well on the way to having not only a new member, but also a new friend. This is the end of this program. The next one that we're going to have will be in about 2 months. At that time, I'm going to cover, review the actions that the national staff takes in reviewing your application when it's sent in. It may sound obvious that they're going to check the information on the application, but the process that they do it should be a very interesting one, and I hope that you'll be there for that. So this is genealogy FAQ number 3 for Tim Ward, John Schatzel, Emery Neal. I'm Bob Fish, Genealogist General of the SAR. Thanks for listening. End of the program.